The aim of the AT3 group dynamics task was to evaluate the 6-week inter-school volleyball competition and reflect on the impact I had as a coach on my team members. When divided into 2 teams, each team member was allocated a coaching role with a goal of improving either the improvement or participation of their teammates. I undertook the role of the technical coach, which was a focus of improving the qualities and outcome of the serve technique throughout training sessions. Player A was queried on what volleyball technique they believed to be most inconsistent with, resulting in the serve technique being selected. Certain strategies were implemented weekly and evaluated for their success by collecting data on both Player A's qualities. Within the pre-season footage, the data collected suggests that the serve technique was inconsistently executed by Player A, which led to an increased amount of errors, possession loss. Player profiles were developed for each of my team members to allow comparisons to be made. The pre-season improvement goal focus was for my subject to be able to correctly use their serve technique correctly in order to be able to place the serve effectively in set plays, shot placement. During this coaching program, I adopted the movement concept of movement quality due to the use of speed, accuracy and flow when utilizing the serve technique, and the movement strategy of making decisions when referring to Player A self-organizing. Referring to pre-season data, it was evident that Player A was classified in the cognitive stage of learning prior to the conduction of training sessions due to their lack of prior knowledge of the sport and the various uncoordinated movements. It was clear Player A was in the cognitive stage of learning due to their unbalanced base of support and center of gravity when performing the serve technique. Training Drill 1. Player attempts 10 serves without prior knowledge of the serving technique, then reviews footage of their serve compared to a professional serve and notes down positive, negatives and future advice for the serving technique. Finally, the player attempts another 10 serves with new knowledge of the serving technique. Within pre-season, the first activity was taken from a technical perspective and an autocratic coaching style was adopted within a closed environment with the use of the feedback sandwich. This type of feedback allows constructive criticism to be given without negative effects towards the receiver's confidence. Referring to the player profiles and rate limiters, Player A had individual constraints such as no prior knowledge of volleyball, which affected performance and execution of the serve. A strategy of knowledge of performance was introduced to allow the player to open up the degrees of freedom in the many ways the body can move. From this, they were able to adapt current incorrections within the serving technique, such as unbalanced base of support and center of gravity. Player A and myself worked collaboratively to adjust his technique in correlation towards the professional footage viewed by having a closed meeting where Player A was able to discuss any issues or problems faced when performing the first 10 serves, such as feeling off balance when striking the ball and not knowing where to place his feet. With data collected, evidence suggests that this strategy was successful due to the graph shown with an increase in accuracy of the serving technique, along with changes in the movement concept of movement quality when Player A corrected their technique by stabilizing their center of gravity by planting both feet firmly on the ground and the follow-through of one arm once the ball was hit. Although it was evident that the lack of explosive power was when executing the serves due to 20% of the shots hitting the net. With fatigue training drill 2, player attempts 5 overarm serve shots, then does 25 push-ups without rest and attempts another 5 overarm serve shots. Fatigue training drill 3, player attempts 5 underarm serve shots and then runs 3 laps of the court without rest and attempts another 5 underarm serve shots. Within mesocycle 2 and 3, training drills of fatigue was designed to understand the difference when player A was fatigued compared to when he wasn't, with the use of a democratic coaching style within a closed environment to maximize achievement towards the movement solution. Communication was established when player A was asked to change the fatiguing method from push-ups as they were struggling to perform the push-ups and weren't enjoying the training drill. Player profiles were Player A's player profile showed the preferred type of learning in kinesthetic, which is why the training drills were implemented to allow for more active movements. Player A and myself worked collaboratively in relation to his sports history of soccer to allow for a different fatiguing method of running laps of the court while dribbling a soccer ball instead. The difference between player A being fatigued versus not fatigued was not obvious in both training drills, as the percentage of shots landed were very similar. Although changes in specific movements such as the serving technique were obvious, when player A was beginning to perform incorrect movements patterns similar to the pre-season footage, this strategy was not evident in games, as it was difficult to tell if player A was fatigued or not due to no heartbeat data. When communicating with player A, he displays negative emotions towards this mesocycle's training focus, as he felt he couldn't continue the movements correctly due to his fatigued muscles. Collectively, the strategy didn't allow for much improvement, and there was little evidence of successfulness. Player A did communicate a dislike towards the training drills, which allowed for greater improvements for future mesocycles. Training drill 4. For player A to strike the boxing bag 100 times with similar movements towards an overarm serve. The mid-season focus was to increase the explosive power of player A when performing overarm serves. This individual constraint was chosen due to previous mesocycle data collected, where it was found that over 30% of overarm serves in training drill games where it was hit short of the net, resulting in lack of explosive power. Therefore, a training drill was designed where player A was to strike a punching bag 100 times with similar movements to an overarm serve to improve muscle memory. Muscle memory includes performing a motor task into one's memory through repetition, which is an effective way for player A to familiarize themselves with the correct technique. Referring to player A profile, player A prefers individual training drills preferred to group environments, so this strategy was formed in a closed environment. His weaknesses revolving around volleyball included power and strength, which affected performance of the serve. Communication was established when player A was struggling to incorporate the movement patterns of striking the punching bag into an overarm serve. Therefore, a task constraint of changing the equipment was made, where the ball was changed from a volleyball to a vortex so that player A could practice the comparable movements. Collaboratively, the player and myself worked together to incorporate movements learned from the training drills into game scenarios by focusing on when to use the overarm serve. Unfortunately, player A wasn't confident in their ability to perform an overarm serve within games due to the inconsistency within training drills. They did utilize their explosive power within training games as shown, as the rate of success was high with 0 errors made. Examples of why player A wasn't confident of performing an overarm serve within a game scenario was due to pressure applied from teammates. Training drill 6. Opposing player rolls the ball towards player A who is serving. The time taken for the ball to reach the player serving, the opposing players must move around within the court. Once player A picks up the ball, the opponents must remain static. Player A must look for the best shot and gaps within the opposing player's side of the court. If the static player hits the ball back over the net in 3 touches without moving, they receive a point. If the serving player successfully hits within the area, they get a point. Whichever team has the most points will win a reward. Within Mesocycle 6, a strategy of utilizing a democratic coaching style was adopted through movement quality and decision making. A training drill was conducted with the aim of player A self-organizing his movement patterns to find appropriate movement solutions, maximizing achievement to available affordances. The drill was designed so that the player could serve into the gaps of the opposing team setup. The problem he faced was the desire to want to beat the opposing team due to there being no reward or punishment. Collaboratively, player and I worked on an outcome goal where the winning team would win a box of chocolates, giving player A incentive. In direct reference to player A's profile, he indicated his type of learner was visual/kinesthetic. Therefore, visual demonstrations were implemented in relation to the correct serving technique, providing him with the ability to self-organize with the correct movement solution. Player A was able to place the ball within the gaps of the opposing team due to their ability to get the required explosive power to hit the areas within the court. Qualitative data collected from their game performance showed that my player had a decreasing amount of serves that successfully hit the opponent's area, with only 20% successful serves, although an increase in explosive power was shown when performing overarm serves due to player A due to the previous mesocycle focus. Some variables which could explain the decrease in successful serves could be the training sessions that were missed the previous mesocycle, the lack of energy due to player A not getting enough rest, or incorrect attitude towards the sport. The analysis of player A serving technique was evaluated through data collection, training drills and game footage, and the biomechanical concepts were assessed each mesocycle. Major improvements were seen when referring to knowledge of the sport, explosive power when performing an overarm serve, and self-organization with player A maximizing achievement while looking for available affordances. In pre-season, player A was considered in the cognitive stage due to the incorrect movements when executing the serve. Due to rapid improvements of the serve and new acquired knowledge, player A would be considered in the associative stage of learning as it started to self-correct his errors through trial and error. The last mesocycle's evidence showed player A had a decrease in successful serves within games due to the missed training session beforehand. Through communication with other technical coaches, they provided feedback with clear improvements relating to the improvement goal of player A being able to hit the desired area from a serve shot. Successful use of constraints and self-organization allowed for a dynamical systems approach where it was evident that player A had improved their overall use of the serve.